walk in the park for the Mets so far this weekend as fall beckons. The season is drawing toward a close, and the Mets are going for a sweep this afternoon at Citi Field. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Miami Marlins. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez joins me in just a moment as the Mets go for a sweep of their three-game series against the Miami Marlins. The Mets had lost 9 straight home games coming into this series, but it all changed on Friday night. John Neese took them out looking for his career-high 12th win, and Neese was terrific again, pitching into the 7th inning. But what changed on Friday night is that the Mets provided run support, and Scott Hairston was front and center, a first-inning 2-run homer. Harrison later added a triple as well. Ike Davis homered, and the Mets had themselves a 7-3 victory, and they snapped that 9-game home losing streak. Then yesterday, R.A. Dickey took them out, his third try at his 19th win, and Dickey was tremendous. He held the Marlins scoreless over the first 8 innings, had his knuckleball floating all day long, and he had himself a 4-0 lead going to the ninth. First 2 men reached against him in the ninth, so Dickey departed. Here's how he got the lead. Jason Bay with a 2-run homer into the block beyond center field, and Hairston homered for the second straight day as well. After Dickey left the game in the 9th inning with 2 men on, John Roush had his struggles. Roush gave up a 3-run homer to John Buck off the foul pole, and for the second time of the game, the umpires had to review it. Can't figure out why. But it was a 3-run homer. It was a 1-run game, and with a tying run at second base, Roush struck out Corky Hernandez to end it. Mets had a 4-3 win, and Dickey had his 19th victory of the season. So the Mets have now beaten the Marlins 6 straight times. This is a team they have certainly had the measure of.
Well, when the series started, Gary, the Mets had a small half-game lead for the cellar, and no one wants to finish in last place. The Mets is the one team the Mets have dominated, 10-4 on the year. Now a 2.5-game lead. They'd like to make it 3.5 today with a sweep and secure, hopefully, whether you play the last 3 games in Miami, they're not going to finish in the cellar. Like I said, you don't want to finish in last place.
And Chris Young will get the ball for the Mets today. Young, last time out in Milwaukee, was victimized by 3 solo home runs.
Well, he has pitched really credibly well. He's not, his record at 4-8 is not indicative of how well he's pitched. Chris is going to give you 5-6 innings. They're going to yank him there. He keeps you in the ball game. 1-1 this year against the Marlins.
Young will look for his first ever win at Citi Field. Meanwhile, Ricky Nolasco, who has been hot and cold all year, will go for the Marlins.
Well, Nolasco's 12-12. He already was 115 games about 3-4 years ago. He's really kind of settled into a 500 pitcher, but he's on a red-hot streak right now. His last 4 starts, he's on a 3-1. Won 3 games and lost 1.
So on a splendid fall day in New York, the Mets will go for the sweep of the Marlins. Mets and Marlins from Citi Field. All the action coming up on Pix 11. Chevrolet. Distance matters. Chevy has 10 models offering an EPA estimated 30 highway miles per gallon or better. By Bank of America. By Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. By Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By your tri-state area Volkswagen dealers. Visit VWDealer.com. And by Subway. It's Subway's birthday, and everyone is celebrating with $5 favorites all season long. Get to Citi Field for 50% off tickets with your Pepsi can. On game day, exchange the can at the Citi Field box office to save 50% off 2 tickets. Visit Mets.com/Pepsi can for more details. Keys to the game brought to you by Cadillac, on the web at CadillacTristate.com.
On the keys of the game, brought to you by Cadillac. The Big Bang Theory, I love it. Guys in the truck are really getting creative here. The big home runs, the Mets powered their way through the first 2 victories. Chris Young is winless here in 8 starts. Ricky Nolasco, David Wright certainly needs a big game. He hasn't got a hit in this series. There's a guy he's had success against.
Chris Young making his way in, getting ready for his 19th start of the year. Who would have thought that, coming off shoulder surgery last year? Mets and Marlins, first pitch coming up from Citi Field. Luxury cars that deliver inspired performance. Chris Young takes the mound, looking for his 5th win of the year. Starting lineup brought to you by Toyota. When you choose Toyota, you get a lot for less. Marlins will go with pretty much the same look they've had throughout this series. They've got a whole bunch of people hurt, with Giancarlo Stanton having not played throughout the series. Justin Ruggiano hurt his shoulder on Friday night, and Austin Kearns' back seized up, so Ozzie Guillen going with what he's got as his team languishes in last place, 20 games under 500.
And there's Chris Young, and as Gary mentioned in the open, winless at home here. You have to go back 2 other people. In 1962 at the Polo Grounds, Craig Anderson was 0-11 in 14 starts at home, and Anthony Young, you remember him, Met fans, in 93 was 0-8 in 10 starts. And the Infinity defense, Mets defense, as you can see, Torres has been getting play every day. He's got to play center field. He's the best defensive center fielder here at Big Shea. Hasn't made too many outfield errors. That's a fine. Citi Field.
By the way, always good to get the Anthony Young mention in early. Of course, that 0-8 in 93, only a piece of his phenomenal 27-game losing streak. as Young's first pitch is outside to Brian Peterson. Peterson 0 for 6 in the series. Made that tremendous catch yesterday to rob R.A. Dickey of an extra base hit. And Young quickly falls behind him 2-0. Chris is 4-8. All his wins have come on the road. He lost 3-0 in Milwaukee his last start. Pitched pretty well despite giving up 3 solo homers, 2 to Ryan Braun. Call strike to Peterson, 2-1.
He was 1-1 against the Marlins this year in 2 starts. He really got roughed up in one, and the other one pitched a fine ball game.
See that number at the bottom? His starts at Citi Field, the Mets been outscored 53-13. Now, one of those was that 13-0 loss the Mets suffered to the Marlins in the game on August 8th when we sat up in the Pepsi porch. And Jose Reyes hit a rocket to lead off the game into the Pepsi porch. Popped up for Tejada to handle on a windy day. He stays with it for the first out. So Peterson retired. 1 out and nobody on. You see that flag flapping in the breeze. Wind blowing about 15 miles an hour.
Where yesterday the wind was blowing in the opposite direction and the ball carried to center field.
Today more out of the northwest than the southeast. Here's Gorkys Hernandez, 2 for 8 in the series, has a 5-game hitting streak going. Picked up from the Pirates at the trading deadline. The Pirates will limp in here tomorrow. Boy, how their fortunes have gone in the opposite direction. The Pirates, losing yesterday, now have lost 30 of their last 41 games since the 8th of August. They're 11-30.
Oh, there you go. That's a collapse.
Sharply hit, and David Wright with another beautiful pickup. He's been doing that all year long. 2 out.
You know, even David, in his years where he's won the Gold Glove, he hasn't been as smooth. He's very smooth with the glove this year. Here he is playing on the grass and makes it look easy.
So quickly, 2 out and nobody on. It's hard to stay sharp sometimes as an infielder with Chris Young on the mound because you get very few ground balls hit.
It was very much like Sid Fernandez in the 80s on our teams. That was the lineup that Davey Johnson would put Hojo at shortstop and would put Kevin Mitchell out in the outfield or even play him at third.
Reyes lines one to right. Right there waiting is Hairston, and the side retired. 8-pitch inning for Chris Young to start the afternoon. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first with no score. Toyota, you get a lot for less. David Wright, 4 hits behind Ed Kranepool's franchise record, but he's gone 0 for 8 in this series. Daniel Murphy swinging the bat well. Scott Hairston on a very good roll, so he gets a start against a right-hander this afternoon.
And the starting pitcher, the veteran Ricky Nolasco, was at one time the ace of this ball club when he won 15 ball games, but that was a little while ago. He's currently got off to a 4-0 start. His first 4 starts of the season. His last 4 starts, he's 3-0. But in between, 5-12 with an ERA almost over 6 in 19 starts.
Ricky Nolasco, like the little girl with the curl. He's either really good or he is horrid. And the Mets have seen both sides of that this year. He had one tremendous game he pitched against the Mets back in April, 7 innings, 1 run. And the second time the Mets faced him, they beat him up 6 runs and 9 hits over 4 2/3. Ruben Tejada leads things off for New York. And Tejada, first pitch swinging, fouls back the fastball. Daniel Murphy.
Is that hockey?
It's like he's in the penalty box.
High sticking.
Well, that only happens if you uppercut. Lofted toward the second baseman Solano, and that's the first out. So Tejada's retired on a soft line drive.
And we'll take a look at the Marlin defense, brought to you by Infinity Luxury Cars that deliver inspired performance. And we're going to highlight Senor Reyes. He's the only guy in the lineup. This is a beat-up ball club. They made a lot of transition. They traded a lot of people. A lot of people are hurt, but he was there opening day, and he's here getting towards the end. Nice sunglasses.
First year of a 6-year contract for Jose for a Marlins team that went for it this year and didn't get it. Call strike to Murphy, who's 2 for 7 in this series with a couple of RBIs. Murphy's got good career numbers against Nolasco, 7 for 22, a .318 average. And he takes curveball for a strike. Generally with Nolasco, if he gets his curveball over early, it's going to be a good day for him. And he has had more good days than bad lately. He's always been a strike thrower. Couldn't get Murphy to bite. Third base umpire Tim Welke says no swing, 1-2. Nolasco, in fact, has walked only 1 batter in his last 34 innings.
Yeah, on the year, he's got in 179 innings, only 45 walks, 8 of them intentional.
2.3 walks per 9 innings. David Wright on deck. And Murphy takes just inside with a slider, 2-2. Lifetime, Nolasco's 5-8 against the Mets with a 5.28 ERA, one of the highest ERAs in history against the Mets for a pitcher who's had at least 100 innings against them. Inside to Murphy in a full count. The only pitchers with 100 innings against the Mets with higher ERAs than Nolasco in the Mets history is Brad Penny, who has the highest, 6.25. Bruce Ruffin, remember him with the Phils, and Russ Ortiz, who the Mets used to beat up with regularity when he was with the Giants and the Braves. Murphy smacks one to center field, chasing Hernandez back, and it's over his head. Hops against the wall. Murphy to second and pulls in with a 1-out double. A 400-foot 2-base hit for Daniel Murphy, his 38th double of the year.
Well, he smokes this ball. A lot of outfielders today like to play in shallow, and this is a big ballpark. You better be able to go get him. Murphy hits this ball, crushes it. You can see gets a break. One step in was the difference.
So Murphy was behind in the count 0-2, worked it to 3-2, and he's on second base with a 1-out double. Now David Wright 0 for 8 in this series, 3 for his last 29. His average down to a season low 305. And he smacks one deep to left center. Back goes Hernandez, back near the wall, and it's out of here. David Wright with a first inning 2-run homer, and the Mets jump in front 2-0. Number 19 for Wright, and the 6th home run he's hit against Ricky Nolasco, more than he's hit against any other pitcher.
Well, that'll get David Wright back in the team RBI lead, 1 ahead of Ike. Sinker down and in. Goodbye.
First run of the game brought to you by Chevy, on the web at ChevyOffers.com. So the Mets strike quickly. Murphy double, and right on the very next pitch, a 2-run homer. 19 homers, 84 RBIs for Wright. Now just 3 hits behind Ed Kranepool's franchise record.
Well, there's Nolasco's reaction. He knows. Yep. You just need a little click. You wanted a confirmation.
18th home run given up by Nolasco. This is his 30th start, so that's not a bad number at all. Ball and a strike to Ike Davis. Ike is 2 for 4 in this series. Homered on Friday night. Didn't start yesterday. Ike now with 28 home runs, 83 driven in. And he hooks one foul. Well, the Mets hit 2 home runs on Friday night, Hairston and Davis. They had 2 home runs yesterday, Hairston and Bay. And they've already got a home run on the board today. Mets haven't hit 2 or more home runs in 3 straight games since July the 5th through the 7th.
Well, Nolasco is a lifetime in 21 starts against the Mets, 5-8 with an ERA over 5. He's not getting his curveball over right now, Gary. And this is a guy that needs his curveball, and as a hitter, make him get it up. He's missed low in the strike zone with his curveball, not up. Make him get it up. He's got to come to the fastball if he gets behind.
Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach for the Marlins, looking on, and Ike goes down looking at a fastball. So Nolasco has his first strikeout, the second out of the inning.
Well, I don't know if Ike was looking for a curve here, but you got a pitcher that can't get it over.
And the numbers for Nolasco against the Mets. Since Nolasco debuted in 2006, he's had as many starts as any pitcher in the major leagues against the Mets. 22 now with the start today. That ties him with Tim Hudson. And a call strike to Hairston, 0-1.
Well, it's 132 strikeouts for Ike, and something that he needs to improve on next season. He's got a whole fine second half to work on, to build on for next year. See, he's still getting that curveball down. That's the things you've got to pay attention to, you young hitters out there from Little League. Well, not so much Little League. Little League, just have fun. But you high school, college, focus.
Shouldn't be throwing curveballs in Little League anyway.
Focus on the pitcher. This guy right here, Nolasco's not getting it over. He's missing consistently in the dirt. Make him get it up.
Hairston pulling off the slider, and it's 1-2. Scott has homered in each of the first 2 games of this series. Now has 19 for the year, a new career high. Lucas Duda would be next. Hairston said yesterday it would be very meaningful to him to get to 20 home runs for the first time in his career.
You know that David Wright would like to get to 20 also. They're both 1 shy.
But you know, Hairston's had more than 200 fewer at bats than David has, so it really has been a terrific year for Scott in every respect.
No question.
He's become much more than just a platoon player.
It's not an easy job, too. You know, Scott got far more playing time than he ever dreamed, due to Bay getting off to the bad start, getting injured, and boy, he took advantage of his opportunity.
11 home runs here this year, more than anybody else this season, and the second most since the ballpark opened. David Wright hit 12 here in 2010. Of course, it's a little easier to hit home runs here now with the fences moved in for the first time. Nolasco about to throw his 20th pitch of the inning, already his second full count. Not something he's accustomed to. 3-2 to Hairston, and he fouls off the fastball. Chris Young, 2 runs to the good already after his team got shut out in his last start in Milwaukee. It was the game Willie Peralta started against the Mets, and that youngster looked fantastic. Then Peralta got beat up yesterday by the Nationals, knocked out in the 3rd inning, and so it goes. And Hairston pulls one down to third. Nice stop by Gil Velasquez, and he throws him out to end the inning. But the Mets jump out to the early lead. Murphy with a double, and then David Wright goes deep. Number 19 for David. He gets that much closer to Ed Kranepool, now just 3 hits behind. 2-0 New York after 1. Lead. Chris Young, who got the side in order in the first, faces Carlos Lee, and he gets the high strike. 0-1. Lee 0 for 8 in this series. Lee has had 13 straight seasons before this year where he had at least 10 home runs and at least 25 doubles. He needs one more home run to make it 14 straight years. Career starting to wind down at age 36.
Yeah,
he has had a terrific career.
He has, and he is diminished. He has definitely slowed down. A lot of times these big guys just kind of fall off of a cliff. You know, when they lose it quick.
You know, he first came up with the White Sox, and he was overshadowed there by Frank Thomas, later by other big hitters, and I don't think he ever got the credit he deserved. Then he went to Houston, and he really came into his own. 1-2 to Lee. Picked up from the Astros at the beginning of July when the Marlins still fancied themselves a contender. By 3 weeks later, they were dismantling. And Lee actually was the part of a trade that was going to send him to the Yankees, and he turned down that trade, which was his right, because he said he loved it in Miami. He'd been there for 3 weeks, and in fact he's gone to management and told them he wants to come back next year. Whether they want him back is a whole other story. Check swing foul. A lot of players like the idea of playing in Miami.
Well, there's a lot of benefit playing in Florida, and now with the new stadium and the dome, and no longer the rain delays and the rain outs
and the 95 and humid. Swing and a miss, and Lee is struck out. First strikeout for Young.
Fastball right down the middle. This splits the plate right there to rip. Swung right through it.
Well, the Marlins, like the Mets, are going to have a lot of decisions to make in the offseason. The Mets have got to figure out how to retool their outfield and figure out exactly what their course of action is going to be as they wait for their young pitching to develop. Here's Greg Dobbs with one out.
Well, you're talking about Carlos Lee, who can only play first base. You can't put him out in the outfield anymore, particularly in that big ballpark in Miami. They're talking of Logan Morrison, who's injured. He's been the left fielder, moving him to first base. You got Bonifacio, who's on the DL. He's going to play second, or is he going to play center field? They got a lot of issues.
Well, and it starts at the top. I mean, it's clear that the Marlins went out and spent an enormous amount of money in the offseason to sign Jose Reyes, to sign Heath Bell, to sign Mark Burley, to bring in Ozzie Guillen on a 4-year contract. And it all fell apart so quickly for them this year, and it clearly was not the right mix, and they started dealing away some parts. But the question is, do they stay the course next year with what they've brought in, or do they start from scratch again? Do they bring back Ozzie, whose job appears to be on the line, even though he's only in the first year of a 4-year contract? Swing and a miss by Dobbs. It's 2-2. I mean, those are tough calls because you make commitments to be a certain type of team going forward, and when the mix just appears to be off, do you dump it immediately, or do you try and give it a second chance?
Well, one of the big guys for their plans for the future is no longer here, was Hanley Ramirez, and ever since Hanley, was it 2-3 years ago, won the batting title, he just went downhill, became lazy and got in bad habits with his swing.
Dobbs hits it down the left field line, and that'll fall for a base hit. Over quickly to try and play it as Duda, but it hits off the sidewall, and easily to second base goes Dobbs.
Well, Dobbs is a veteran hitter, good guy to have off the bench. Nice hitting right there, going with a fastball away.
Well, that's Jeffrey Loria, the Marlins owner, who is a very hands-on owner and will make a lot of the decisions about what the Marlins do going forward, whether they make changes in the front office, whether Ozzie returns. Here's Donovan Solano, the second baseman, who's been a nice surprise for the Marlins this year. He's played a lot of different places, settled in lately at second base. He's had a very good series. He's gone 5 for 8 with a couple of doubles, 2 RBIs in the first 2 games. Solano bloops one into shallow right, and Murphy can't get to it. It's a base hit. Dobbs will go to third, and the Marlins have first and third and one out. Just a little flare off the bat of Solano, and he winds up with his sixth hit of this series.
Boy, you just cannot. Dobbs, you cannot score in this ball. He's got to sit there and read, get there halfway. It's a tough chance. Murphy almost had a chance at it. Don't want to get doubled up.
So now Rob Brantley, the catcher, who the Marlins picked up in the deal from Detroit when they shipped off Anibal Sanchez and Omar Infante. Brantley 1 for 5 in this series, and a pinch hit double in the ninth inning yesterday that knocked R.A. Dickey out of the game. And he fouls off the first pitch, 0-1. Actually, Brantley's hit came off John Roush in the ninth inning yesterday. In any event, Brantley's been hitting the ball very well. He's hitting at .329 since coming over from Detroit. 76 at bats.
It's got a little bit. Hasn't got a lot of bat speed. Takes a big stride. If you don't have bat speed, you're going to be in trouble at this level.
Known more for his bat in the minor leagues than for his glove. He really struggled behind the plate in the opening game of this series. Gil Velasquez, the number 8 hitter, waits on deck. Tying runs on base with 1 out. Going to check in on Solano, who has 7 steals without being caught this year. Young's given up 17 stolen bases this year, continuing a career-wide phenomenon. He's just so tall and so many moving parts, it's hard for him to get the ball to the plate quickly.
Basically playing Brantley straight up. Infield and outfield. He got a little bit of an uppercut too. He drops that back shoulder. I'm not in love with his swing, to be honest with you. Watch him drop his back shoulder. No, it's just, I'm not thrilled with that. Not thrilled with that. Oh, there we go.
Skywriting. I thought that was a lost art. It's a lot of C's. And the curveball misses from Young. 2-2. So it's a situation where Young certainly would love to get a ground ball, but it's just not his game. He doesn't get very many ground balls. The high ball pitcher, as lopsided a fly ball pitcher as there is in the game. And a pop up wide of third, right into foul ground, and he gets there at the railing. Nicely done by David Wright. That's the second out.
I'll tell you what, the Marlins have just been pathetic this series with runners in scoring position, particularly on third base, where they need a sacrifice fly. They just can't get it done.
Well, Davis made 2 fine plays in the first 2 innings. He has a 2-run homer to boot, so his day's off to a rollicking start. So now Young with a chance to get through the inning unscathed as he takes on the number 8 hitter, Gil Velasquez. Velasquez, who had some brief cups of coffee with the Red Sox and the Angels, originally drafted by the Mets 14 years ago. He's 32 years old and getting a chance to play some third base for the Marlins in this series. And he takes a strike.
So Velasquez and Solano were the 2 guys, or was it Gorkis Hernandez, that figured out Dickey yesterday. They had good at bats against R.A.
Velasquez had a couple of hits yesterday.
Solano had 3 and Velasquez had 2. They were the 2 guys that really had a great approach on R.A.'s knuckleball.
And a pop up into shallow right center. Hairston makes the call and dives to make the catch. He thought that Torres had called him off. Torres had stopped, and Hairston had to dive to make the catch. Torres pointing at Hairston, and Hairston bails him out.
It's
Like
gotta be
Alphonse and Gaston. You take it. No, you take it.
It's Hairston's ball, Gare. F9, your
Nothing. Lucas Duda will lead things off on a beautiful, bright, sunny day. Wind blowing. I don't know how much that affected that last exchange between Torres and Hairston, but Chris Young very happy that Hairston was able to make that catch and save him a run or two. Duda 1 for 2 in this series with a couple of walks, hitting at .245 for the year. Nolasco was touched for a 2-run homer by Wright in the first inning. Duda, Torres, and Shopik for the Mets in the second. Lucas lays off a high one for ball one. Duda playing left field today after playing first base yesterday, as the Mets remain committed to playing him every day going down the stretch of the season. And the curveball from Nolasco for a strike. Just trying to figure out what they've got with Lucas Duda, as good a read as they can before they head into the offseason and start making some decisions. Decisions about, first of all, whether Duda has a long-term future as an outfielder. Popped up, shallow left center, and that'll drop for a base hit. Reyes gave up on it. Hernandez couldn't get there. Duda's got himself a single to start the second.
Jose made a decision right away that he wasn't going to get there.
He's played that way this entire series, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
So now Andres Torres with a runner aboard. Torres 1 for 5 in this series, hitting just .173 as a left-hand batter. Might be a nice time to drag a bunt with Lee playing first base. And he takes the curveball inside for ball one.
Well, Velasquez at third is in against a potential bunt, and you've already got Carlos Lee at the corner. You've got a right-hand pitcher. You got Torres, who's been struggling from the left side of the plate.
And he pulls one right to Lee, who slaps the bag for a double play.
Wow.
Well, some bad luck for Andres Torres. Lee was at just the right spot.
Well, there's a case where you got a first baseman that's not off the bag. How many times have we seen Torres pull the ball down the line and you come out smelling like a rose?
2 for 1. Nothing Duda could do. So just like that, 2 out and nobody on. Now Kelly Shopik. Shopik just shy of 200 at bats for the season, hitting at .241 with 8 home runs. 3 of those home runs in his 21 games as a Met. Josh Tolley caught the last 2 games. Shopik making his first appearance in this series. Chris Young would be next. And a fastball strike, 1-1.
I just remember Nolasco throwing harder those years he won 15 and 14 for the Marlins. I think he's lost a little bit off that fastball, and that's a big difference.
Sure, he was more 92, 93 in those days. Dickey, who yesterday won his 19th game. That is him, I promise. You can tell by the beard.
And his closest competitor, I think his only competitor for the Cy Young, won his 20th. That's Gio Gonzalez. He won a lot of run support last night. How long did he go in that game?
He went 7 and did not allow an earned run. He gave up 2 unearned runs, so his ERA down to 2.84. Dickey's at 2.66, leading the National League. Dickey beat the Marlins for the 5th time this season. Strike 3 called. Shopik is out on strikes. And so Nolasco has his 2nd strikeout. And the Mets are done in the 2nd, leading 2-0. By Audi, truth in engineering. We go to the 3rd inning at Citi Field. There's your skywriting. I'm not sure what they've written, but
it's too windy.
You're right. The wind does have an impact, doesn't it? Ricky Nolasco will lead off for the Marlins in the 3rd against Chris Young. Mets with a 2-0 lead. It'll be Nolasco, then Brian Peterson, and Gorky Hernandez in the 3rd inning. Well, there's a lot to read on Sunday, but you should put it away while the game's going on. Just read between innings.
Maybe she was forced to go to the game with her husband.
You think?
Maybe.
It's a beautiful sunny day. Ball strike to Nolasco, who has 9 hits this year, his best season with the bat. Nolasco, a lifetime 143 hitter, and he takes a big cut there, and it's 0-2. Talking about Chris Young before and his propensity to get fly balls, I saw an interesting number from Bloomberg today about the location of Young's pitches relative to other starters in the majors. If you take the second half of this season, 53% of Young's pitches have been in the upper third of the strike zone.
Okay.
The next highest pitcher in Major League Baseball, he's at 53%. Next highest high in the strike zone is R.A. Dickey at 41%. 53 to 41. No other pitcher is even close. Third on the list is Kevin Millwood, who's just under 40% of pitches in the upper third of the strike zone. It gives you an idea how unique Chris Young is. Fly ball from Velasco, and Duda edges in. One away.
Well, I think R.A., that's surprising. I know R.A. has the high one. He likes to throw that little riser knuckleball.
I mean, R.A. doesn't even count. I mean, you kind of take him out of the equation because he's a different breed as a knuckleballer. But you know, so you've got Young at 53, and then Millwood under 40. So it just tells you that Young is doing something that nobody else does, to throw, you know, 85, 86 miles an hour, throw that much up in the strike zone, and have the level of success he's had. Peterson fouling it back.
Well, there's another one right there up in the strike zone. He knows what he's doing out there.
Now, the question is, how does a guy throwing at that velocity get away with pitches up in the strike zone?
It's got to be, he's over the top. It's got to be a deception. His height probably has a lot to do with it. Big long stride home, then he gets down low. That's a nice pitch. JR was a lot like that. Now obviously JR was an entirely different pitcher. JR Richards, excuse me, for the Houston Astros. JR 6'8". He had the up and down, but the same big stride. See how low Young gets when he drives off the mound. His whole, because of his big stride home, his trunk has to drop down, and that JR did that too, and that was deceptive.
But JR threw 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's why I said they're entirely different. Yeah. JR did it with power pitching.
So second strikeout for Young as he gets Peterson. And now Gorkis Hernandez, who was robbed of a hit on a terrific stop by David Wright his first time up. And he tries to bunt, and Young stretches out to grab it, and that retires the side. So another 1-2-3 inning for Young. Took him just 8 pitches to get there. 2-0 Mets in the third.
Looked like a
Francis and Linda every morning for the latest news, weather, and traffic. Get more with the Pix 11 Morning News. Chris Young leads off for the Mets in the home third, with the Mets up 2-0. Young has 3 hits on the season, 2 RBIs. It'll be Young, Tejada, and Murphy for the Mets against Ricky Nolasco, who's given up 3 hits over the first 2 innings. And Young takes a fastball for a strike. Young with 3 hits for the year. He had 3 hits his first ever start for the Mets last year in Philadelphia. So far, Chris having a much better day than the last time he faced the Marlins here, when he was tagged for 7 runs and got knocked out in the 5th inning. It's this one out to right field. A late start for Dobbs, and it goes over his head. And Young has an extra base hit. Second double of the year for Chris Young as he shocked Greg Dobbs, who got frozen in his tracks.
It took Dobbs around 30 seconds to realize the ball's over his head here. He's not an outfielder now. He's third baseman. And it showed here. He just got a late break. You got to think that Giancarlo Stanton would have put that in his back pocket.
So the Mets have a runner at second with nobody out, and Ruben Tejada the batter. Tejada hit a soft liner to the second baseman his first time up. Mets have 4 hits. 3 of the 4 have been for extra bases. Corners are in against Tejada. Sacrifice would be a tough call, if only because Young is not very swift. It would be hard to get him to third base on the bunt. Chris is a terrific athlete, but not blessed with a lot of speed. He was a great basketball player at Princeton. Played in that Pete Carrill system, and he was a 6'10" center, and he ran that point center that Princeton uses. A great 3-point shooter, terrific passer, averaged 14 points per game, and was good enough that when Carrill got to Sacramento, they offered Chris Young a 3-year contract to leave baseball and come and play in the NBA.
Really?
And he was at a crossroads of his career at that time. He was with Texas and thought it over and turned him down. Nice play by the third baseman Velasquez, and the one-hop throw handled by Lee for the first out. So Velasquez robs Tejada of a hit.
That's the second nice play that Velasquez has made in this game. Wright's made one too. That's a beautiful backhand, and nice scoop by Carlos Lee.
So one hard out for Velasco. Young still at second. Now Daniel Murphy, who hit a 400-foot double his first time up and came in on David Wright's home run. And he lifts this one to left. And Peterson tracking it. 2 out. So Young remains at second with 2 away, and now David Wright. David continued his ownership of Ricky Nolasco. Hit the first pitch he saw today for a 2-run homer, well over the 385 mark in deep left center. 19th home run for Wright, and his 6th career home run against Nolasco, more than he's had against any other pitcher. 6 homers and 61 at bats, and he's hitting over 400 against Nolasco. You've had 60 at bats against a pitcher. Get to know him pretty well by that time.
Well, the one pitcher I had the most at bats against, in my set, that's the curveball from Nolasco that he needs to get over. And here's the home run. Wanted to get a fastball in and got it out over the inner half and down. I think I had over almost 130 at bats off Steve Carlton.
Really? That's a lot of at bats. 2 straight curveballs from Nolasco, and he gets them both over.
I know I hit well against Carlton.
He didn't have a whole lot of company in that, especially as a left-hand hitter.
He flipped me a few times. He put me on my back more than a few times. Maybe a couple times. I remember one wet night in St. Louis, he dropped me good, right under my chin. Close.
Now the 1-2 to right, and that's off the plate. 2-2.
Yeah, I had 137 at bats against Carlton, Gary. 2 home runs, 11 RBI, 17 walks, 321 batting average. On base percentage 396. I'll take it.
Very good against Hall of Fame left-hander. Now the 2-2. David fouls off the slider to stay alive.
The funny thing about Carlton was that he was the old school, like Rusty. He wouldn't talk to the opposition. Couldn't get 2 words out of Steve. If you say hi to Steve when he wasn't pitching, BP, if you walk by him, he just would nod at you. When he retired, and I've been in his company, can't shut him up.
So as a player, you had a lot in common with the sports writers, because Carlton wouldn't talk to them either.
Precisely.
He needed McCarver as his mouthpiece. Another slider, another foul ball. I mean, McCarver was not only Lefty's personal catcher, he was his PR spokesman.
Hey, Tim's career was in flux when I took his spot on the roster when I got called up. And Torrey sprained his thumb, 74. I got called up in late August. They didn't want to put Joe on the DL. There was no retroactive back then. And McCarver was released. He went over to Boston and did not have success there. Didn't fit in, I guess. Not personality-wise. I guess just into this, what they needed. He didn't play much. And it was like his career was at an end. Goes over to Philly. Becomes basically
another 10 years.
Because Carlton's caddy. And he did well. He hit well for Philadelphia. And Tim was a very fiery player and a winner.
Long struggle here between Nolasco and Wright. 8th pitch of the at bat coming. And a bouncing ball for Reyes to handle. And he throws out his former left side of the infield mate to end the inning. Leadoff double for Young. He is stranded. He'll go back to the mound for the 4th with a 2-0 lead. Pictures Looper in theaters September 28th. Rated R.
Beautiful.
It's a gorgeous afternoon. Jose Reyes gets set to lead off. Well, Keith, I've got some personal business to take care of.
What?
You know, it wasn't the biggest college football game yesterday.
That's right.
Rutgers beating Arkansas was huge, but you know, every year Columbia plays Fordham in the Liberty Cup, and every year Chris Majkowski and I have this wager going where the loser has to sing the winner's fight song. Well, Fordham beat Columbia yesterday.
Nice.
Hail, men of Fordham, hail, on to the fray. Once more our foes assail in strong array. Once more the old maroon wave on high. We'll sing our battle song. What do? We'll do or die. Okay.
Okay, good. We got it out of the way.
I have now paid back my debt.
Do you want to tell the folks who Chris Metchkowski is?
Well, everybody knows Chris. He's the immortal Chris Metchkowski, the engineer on Mets radio for the last 20 years.
Over at the Fan. He sits behind Howie and is very much involved in the Ed Coleman show, pregame show.
He's everything on that broadcast.
There he is.
Little side view. He likes to hide. He doesn't like to be in the limelight.
There
he is. Proud Fordham grad.
Oh, he's watching a football game. He's not watching the broadcast.
He looks dismayed because the Jets are getting thumped. There's ball 4 to Reyes. So Young issues his first walk of the day. And the Marlins have the leadoff man on for the first time. Now Carlos Lee, who struck out his first time up.
It's getting close at night now. You get a little fireplace, get the logs in the fire, have a fire at night. We're 10 degrees cooler out in Sag Harbor, you know.
Come on.
It gets chilly at night.
Like 50?
Open the windows. A little night air, a little fire going.
Gotta get you back to Florida. Swing and a miss, 1-1.
One of my little things I love to do is tend to a fire. I can, in the dead of winter, I can get a fire going from them. Get up in the morning, everybody's asleep. Everybody gets up to a nice fire. I'll keep that fire going all day.
Do you have a certain technique?
Well, I have a certain way I build the logs. Yes, and it's fun to get the coals, and bury them in the ash overnight. So when you get up in the morning, put new logs on, and just kind of
blow
the
on.
Coals don't go out.
Yeah.
Just get I have that old-fashioned fan. What do you call them?
Oh, the bellows.
The bellows. I have
really?
I have an old-fashioned antique bellows, which is just a great tool. Great tool.
So you don't use the newspaper or the tinder to relight the fire?
I don't. No, not to relight, but to start. I haven't got the patience. I have that the Duraflame to start the fire. So, yes.
That's sort of cheating.
I draw the line.
0-2 to Carlos Lee. And time asked for. Now, if you're good with the fireplace, are you also good with the barbecue?
Yeah, I can barbecue.
Charcoal or gas?
I have gas.
Come on.
Well,
it's sort of barbecuing.
It's I don't like those. Well, I won't say that.
Nothing like a good charcoal grilled steak.
I don't like the stuff you spray on the coals to get them to catch fire. That's what I don't like.
The lighter fluid?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to use much if you do it right. Swing and a miss, and Lee is struck out. Third strikeout for Chris Young. When we barbecue, we don't use lighter fluid. We use one of those towers. We put the
right.
You put the newspaper underneath and light it, and it
takes care of business.
Gets coals all white hot without lighter fluid.
Well, that's a good thing.
So we don't want you consuming chemicals. We wouldn't do that to you.
That's right. You got me into organics in my backyard.
I got you into organics?
Yes, you did.
How did that happen?
Well, you mentioned it to me. I looked into it. I got off the chemicals in the backyard. I'm in organics now.
Glad to hear that. Next thing I know, you're going to be doing hydroponics. You'll have the greenhouse and everything.
We are digressing here.
Frequently. Reyes with 35 steals on the year, tied for third in the National League. Looks like he's in running mode. And does not go, and it's taken high by Dobbs. 1-0. Dobbs doubled down the left field line his first time up. You can tell with Reyes, and we've been talking about this since early in his Met career. You can tell when he's in the mood to run and when he has no intention of running just by watching the way he sets up. When he dangles that arm, he's thinking about going. When his hands are on his knees, not so much. And there he goes. The throw by Shopik, not in time. And Reyes has his 36th stolen base of the year.
Now his shoulder went hard right into the knee of Tejada here. Watch. It's a hard slide. Boom. He got a little whack there. That's that head first slide and leaves you open to getting clobbered.
Old shortstop beat new shortstop. Those guys text all the time, by the way. Even though, you know, Reyes and Tejada could not have the two more opposite personalities, they're still very good friends. So Reyes at second with 1 out, 1-1 to Dobbs, and he takes it down, and Shopik can't stop it, and Reyes goes to third.
That's a pass ball. What did he get? I don't believe he got crossed up here.
He turned the glove the wrong way.
He just boxed it.
Maybe he was crossed up. Maybe he was looking for that breaking ball.
Well, he was crossed up. He would go out and have a chat with his pitcher, but he didn't. So I got to believe he just kind of boxed it.
Well, now there's a runner at third. The signs get simpler.
David right in at the corner. Everybody else back, conceding the run.
Have we ever seen Dobbs bunt?
No, I would play back.
Yeah. 2-2 now to Dobbs.
This
Donovan Solano on deck.
Marlins have just been gosh awful getting runners in from third this series. Well, they've been pretty awful for quite some time anyway, collectively.
And Dobbs hits it to shallow center. Reyes will tag as Torres comes very far in to grab it, and Reyes will not attempt to score. Better throw by Torres than how he's been doing lately. And Reyes will hold at third base.
Well, it's an exercise in futility for the Marlins. It's a rainbow in there too. Torres does not have a good arm. Torres, excuse me.
So with Reyes at third and 2 out, here's Donovan Solano, who blooped a single to right his first time up. Now 6 for 9 in this series, his average up to 290 in his rookie season. Solano's had just under 250 at bats for the Marlins. He and his brother Jonathan, who catches for the Nationals, made their major league debuts just a few days apart this spring. Two of the very few players who
got him.
Oh! Reyes dives back in as Young could not get that throw on target. If he makes a good throw, he's out dead to rights.
Reyes, look at where he's at. What's he thinking? A good throw, he's dead.
David did well to keep that ball from going into foul territory. They share a laugh.
David wasn't paying attention here, and that happens. You don't expect Reyes to do something so foolish.
No, with Young pitching out of the full windup and all 6'10" of him, Reyes figured he could take liberties. 1-2 to Solano.
Fastball, belt high, right down the middle, swung right through it.
Continues to amaze. He can do that. Just don't pick the ball up. Strike 3 called. Solano caught looking, and Young gets out of a mess in the 4th inning. 4th strikeout for Chris Young. Reyes is stranded at third. 2-0 Mets in the 4th. Brought to you by Bank of America. Mets welcome in the Pirates for 4 games starting tomorrow night. Then the Mets go to Atlanta and Miami to close out the season. 10 games to go after today. Ike Davis will lead off the home fourth. Mets with a 2-0 lead. It'll be Davis, Hairston, and Duda for the Mets in the 4th inning against Ricky Nolasco. Davis caught looking his first time up. Closest race in baseball right now is the American League Central, where the White Sox lead has shrunk to a half a game over Detroit. The Tigers are playing a doubleheader today against Minnesota after a rainout on Friday night. And they lead 2-0 in the 5th inning of Game 1 behind Max Scherzer. Meanwhile, the White Sox have lost 4 straight, and they're in Anaheim today, where they have to face Jared Weaver, who's 18-4. Pulled down the right field line foul. So the Tigers with a chance to pass by the White Sox today. Last night, Miguel Cabrera hit his 42nd home run, tying Josh Hamilton for the American League lead, which means if the season ended today, Cabrera would win the first Triple Crown in baseball since 1967.
Carl Yastrzemski.
And Yastrzemski that year, remember, tied for the home run lead with Harmon Killebrew. Still get credit for the Triple Crown even if you tie in one of those categories.
What did Carl hit that year? I wonder what won the batting title.
Lee playing right along the line there to field Davis's ground ball for the first out. I remember he had 44 home runs. We'll check on the other numbers in a moment.
What was the year he hit? Didn't he hit
301 in 68?
Right, 68 was the year of the pitcher.
Scott Hairston coming up. Kevin Burkhardt is off. C.J. Papa is our field reporter. Let's check in with C.J.
All right, thanks a lot, Gary. You see Scott Hairston go to the plate. You know, he hits home runs in bunches, especially here at Citi Field. He has 11 home runs so far. That's one shy of David Wright's Citi Field record of 12 that he set back in 2010. And for Hairston, I asked him if he compare the streak earlier in May when he had home runs in 3 consecutive games to the one he's in now. He had a home run on Friday and a home run on Saturday. He said he feels good. Physically, he feels terrific. He's in a zone, and he says he's grabbing the ball where it's supposed to be and focusing on staying more inside the ball. He actually compared it to swinging a golf club where you come over the top and hit foul balls where, you know, your balance is off. And he says right now his balance is very good. And, you know, besides the 3 in a row that he hit earlier this year, he also has 4 games where he's gone back to back. So if you do the math, that's 11 home runs. And so I asked him, when you're in a home run streak like this, does he have any superstitions? Josh Tolley is right next to him in the locker room, and Josh said, don't give him any of your trade secrets away. And Josh wouldn't tell me any of his superstitions. But, you know, Hairston said he didn't have any superstitions. So, Keith, I ask you, when you were in a great streak, whether it's a home run streak or a hitting streak, did you do something every day the same to feel that, you know, you would, you know, get a hit from it?
I always started the season, I always had a hole in one of my socks, like when I was a Cardinal. And I would start the season whenever I wore that same sock. I was in love with those socks, and I wore them for years. So I would play the first game. The minute I got hot, whatever leg it was on, I'd wear that sock on that leg the rest of the year. So, yes, baseball players are very superstitious.
Hairston gets under this one and pops it a mile high into Gorkis Hernandez's glove for the second out.
You know, Keith, speaking of socks, I'm wearing the same socks that I wore yesterday. Someone said we had a good broadcast. My first game here with the Mets, I was 1-0, so I figured, what the heck, I'd wear the same socks because I am a superstitious kind of guy. So we have socks in common, Keith.
Very good. Excellent. We want to keep the Mets on a winning streak.
Lucas Duda swings and misses at the changeup. Duda hit a pop fly single his first time up. By the way, Keith, I've got the answer for you about Yastrzemski's Triple Crown. 326 that year.
Oh, 326?
44 homers and 121 RBIs. And Cabrera is going to outdo those numbers in terms of batting average and in terms of runs batted in this year, if indeed he does win the Triple Crown.
Quite a feat. Has not been done in the National League since Joe Medwick with the Cardinals back in the 30s.
37, I believe.
Joe Medwick was the minor league hitting instructor for the Cardinals when I was in the farm system with St. Louis. Joe Ducky Medwick, he walked like a duck. He waddled.
Waddled, but he could play. Got people unhappy in Detroit, remember, in that 1934 World Series.
Yes, the hard slide.
Had to take him off the field.
The hard slide into third base. That was the Gas House Gang, right? That year when they beat Detroit.
You know, there are two things that haven't happened in the National League since those 1930s Cardinals. The Triple Crown you mentioned with Ducky Medwick, and the last 30-game winner in the National League was Dizzy Dean.
Dizzy Dean that year.
In 34.
And we read that book together about the Gas House Gang, about how difficult it was to deal with Dizzy Dean if you were a manager.
Or anybody else.
Frankie Frisch was the player manager played second base. DeRocher was the shortstop, Leo DeRocher.
Pepper Martin.
Pepper Martin. There was a great story about him, right?
That generation's version of a homeless person.
Yeah, he was.
What a great player.
Living out of an automobile, right? In the Depression.
Duda draws Nolasco's first walk of the day. Only the second walk Nolasco has issued in his last 38 innings. And the Mets have a 2-out base runner. Here's Torres, who had a hard line drive to first into a double play his first time up. In the American League East race, the Yankees won their 7th straight in incredible fashion yesterday. They're a game in front of Baltimore. Today, Oakland leads the Yankees 3-0 in the 4th. Baltimore scoreless in the 3rd in Boston. And while the Yankees' victory yesterday was out of this world, coming from 4 runs down in extra innings, the Orioles continued an even more phenomenal stretch of winning extra inning games as they beat the Red Sox in 12, their 16th straight extra inning win. I mean, you talk about a magical season.
That's remarkable.
And who got the game-winning hit in the 12th? Jim Thome, who had spent the last 2 months on the disabled list, first game back, and he gets the game-winning hit. Duda at first with 2 down. Good off-speed pitch by Nolasco, 1-1. You know, there are 2 franchises that haven't had a winning season in a dog's age. The Pirates and the Orioles, who are 2 of the glorious franchises in baseball for a long time, especially during the 70s when they met each other in the World Series twice. Pirates haven't had a winning season since '92 and the Orioles since '97. And for a while it looked like they were both destined for the postseason, but over the last month or so the Pirates have gone straight downhill while the Orioles have continued to thrive.
That's right. Clemente had the great World Series against Baltimore, the 71. And then of course Stargell and that bunch were down 3-1 to Baltimore and came back and beat them.
79.
Yep.
We are family. Three and 1 to Torres. So Nolasco walks very few, walks Duda with 2 out, and now falls behind Torres with Kelly Shopping waiting on deck. And Torres swings through the fastball, and it's 3-2.
That's also that Clemente series in '71 was when Steve Blass had the great World Series, and the next year came back and was wild as a March hare. His career was over. Couldn't find the plate.
Duda gets set to run. 3-2 to Torres, and he goes down swinging to end the inning. 3rd strikeout for Nolasco. A walk and 1 left. We go to the 5th at Citi Field. The Mets and Chris Young with a 2-0 lead. Hey, you never know. First two division clinchers last night. The Giants beat the Padres. Marco Scudero drove in 3 runs to clinch the West. And the Reds clinched the Central with Dusty Baker still absent. 4 days in the hospital now with heart problems. But the Reds win it 6-0 over the Dodgers behind Matt Latos. And Gio Gonzalez won his 20th game as the Nats lowered their magic number to 6, beating the Brewers. Fifth inning brought to you by Ford. Check out the best-selling vehicles with the best-selling values in America. Visit your tri-state Ford dealers today. Rob Brantley leads off in the 5th inning, lower third of the order against Chris Young, who was allowed just 2 hits over 4 scoreless innings. Brantley fouled out to third. A nice play by David Wright along the railing. His first time up. Meanwhile, Atlanta continues to solidify their hold on the top wild card spot in the National League. They blew out the Phillies and Roy Halladay yesterday. Halladay was terrible. Got knocked out in the 2nd inning. Apparently Halladay had gone to see the doctor the day before. He had shoulder spasms but decided to pitch anyway, and it didn't go well. Gave up 7 runs in an inning and 2/3. Anyway, today the Braves are on top of the Phillies again, 2-0 in the 3rd with Tim Hudson on the mound. Drive the other way toward the line comes Duda. He'll have to play it on a hop, and Brantley has a base hit. So the Phillies' hopes of coming back and getting back to the postseason are just about toast now. 4 games out of the 2nd wild card spot as we head into the last 10 days of the season.
That was a huge win for the Cardinals too yesterday. They were down 4-3 late, and they won that.
Beltran hit a home run in the 9th to tie it. Then John Jay had the game-winning hit in the 10th, and they're just getting started in Chicago today.
That gave St. Louis a little 2.5 game lead over the Brewers, who got beat.
Dodgers now 3 games back. So the Cardinals in a lot better shape than they were 24 hours ago. Gil Velasquez takes a strike. Meanwhile, in the American League, Baltimore has that first wild card spot, Oakland 2nd, but the Angels winning last night, beating the White Sox again, now just 2.5 behind as the Angels try and make a late run. And they've got Jared Weaver going against the White Sox today. Popped up, tough play, and it falls in for a hit. Brantley to second, beats the throw there without sliding. It's a pop fly single for Gil Velasquez, and the Marlins have the first 2 on.
Well, there's 4 hits off of Young, and 3 of them been bloops. Santa.
It's a little early, don't you think? I mean, although you're talking about building fires and snuggling under the blankets and all that. It's only September, but I guess if we're pushing the season, Santa can't be far behind.
Who would think of get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, a little breakfast, going to the Met game. I'm going to go as Santa.
That's a very easy answer. He wants to get on television.
He did.
He succeeded.
All right, bunt situation here. Look at the Mets corner infielders putting serious pressure on Nolasco to get this bunt down.
Nolasco generally a very good bunter, but has to move out of the way of that one, and he did not offer at it. Ball 1. Nolasco fly to left his first time up.
Oh my goodness.
Same thing. Wanted to get on TV. It worked. Popped up, and it'll fall foul. Ball and a strike to Nolasco.
Well, Ike Davis is doing the proper thing. He's putting so much heat on Nolasco. He's making him nervous. And he's got to bunt the ball down the third base line. Well, they have signs for this, but I guess they're all going to get together and figure out what they're going to do.
Well, the question is, do you want to run a wheel play?
Why
here?
they're asking for Terry to come out? What's going on? Right motion for Terry to come out.
I wonder whether there's some concern about Young.
No, what kind of bunt play? I don't know. Comprende.
Well, I've never seen this before.
Neither have I. The manager puts the sign on.
Maybe they changed the signs. And
I don't
wasn't
know.
sure.
I don't know what's going on.
Honestly, I've never seen that happen before. A manager being called out at this point of the game to clarify the bunt defense. So we'll see how the Mets play it here. 1-1 to Nolasco, who's got a pretty good bat, so no guarantee he bunts if they play the wheel. And they do not. They play it straight up, and the pitch is high, 2-1.
See, Ike's got no one to hold on at first base. And you're not any intention of forcing the runner out at first base. So stay at very good, Ike. I like it. And that pitcher sees you, and that makes him very nervous. It raises the heart level. It's not good.
Nolasco gets it down, and Ike's going to have to go to first with it. On target to Murphy, 3-4 on the sacrifice. Well, obviously the heart wasn't pounding too much for Nolasco to get that bunt down.
It was a very, very good bunt. It was a perfect bunt.
Get the blood pressure sleeve. Look at the Subway sub prize standings. In the National League wild card, the Braves just about home free. The Cardinals in that second spot after they had to race to the postseason last year. The Brewers putting the most pressure on them, but they suffered a key loss yesterday to the Nats to drop them 2.5 back. Now here's Brian Peterson with 2 in scoring position and 1 out.
Nope, this is the third time now in this ball game that the Marlins have had a runner on third base less than 2 outs. And they're going to concede the run here. The only place you don't want to. I don't understand why Ike's in. I would just play back. It's a 2-1 ball game.
Peterson hits it out to center. That'll get a run in at least. Back goes Torres. He's got it. Tagging at third is Brantley. He'll come in to score. The throw goes to third, not in time. And the Marlins are on the board. Sacrifice fly for Peterson cuts the Met lead to 2-1. 17th run batted in for Peterson. 5th time in 10 tries he's gotten a runner in from third with less than 2 out. So now the tying run at third with 2 out, and here's Gorkis Hernandez, robbed of a hit by Wright his first time up, tried to bunt his way on the second time, and Chris Young was able to snag it. Swing and a miss at the fastball. What's the Jets halftime score?
10-3.
10-3 Dolphins.
Yeah.
Mets in Miami. Jets in Miami. Perfect symmetry on a Sunday afternoon. Trying to bunt his way on, and he bunts it foul. So Hernandez, who tried to bunt his way on last time up, this time trying to bring in a run in that fashion. And unsuccessful. And now he's in a 2-strike hole. Young likes to use the full windup with a runner at third, and he misses high and inside. Most pitchers these days like to pitch out of the stretch with a runner at third, but Young is old school.
I always felt you get your full body into everything from the windup.
I think some pitchers just feel uncomfortable out of the windup with a runner at third, figuring the guy could distract him, taking liberties down the line. Of course, Young almost picked off Reyes. Now he's gone to a full count on Hernandez with Reyes on deck. Big pitch here for Young with the tying run at third. And Hernandez pops it foul. He's keeping that ball upstairs. Chris Young, 33 years old. This is the deepest he's gone into a season in 4 years. Coming back from major shoulder surgery. And that's wide for ball 4. A 2-out walk to Gorkys Hernandez, and now runners at the corners with 2 out for Jose Reyes.
Reyes has had a lot of opportunities to have a big impact on this series, but he has failed to deliver. The Mets have got him out.
1 for 8 in the series. Lined out to right in the first inning today, then walked, stole a base in the 4th. Velasquez the tying run at 3rd. Hernandez at 1st with 2 down. Each team with 4 hits in the game. Reyes, who homered against Young the last time the Marlins were here, takes a letter high strike, 0-1. There goes Hernandez. The throw by Shopik into center field, and that'll bring in the tying run. Shopik decided to throw through and airmailed it, and Velasquez comes in to score on the Shopik error to tie the game at 2.
Well, Reyes takes a fastball down the middle, let the guy steal, and boy, oh boy, did he send that one into the next county.
Not even close. So the Marlins, with 2 runs home in the inning, have tied the game. Now the go-ahead run at 2nd with 2 down, a 2-strike count to Reyes. Scoreboard is yet to catch up. Here's the 0-2, and it's popped up. Tejada with the angle, comes over to grab it, and that retires the side. But Miami gets even. They scratch out a pair against Chris Young. 2-2 halfway through. Lost the Mets the tying run. Will lead off for New York in the bottom of the 5th against Ricky Nolasco. It'll be Shopik, Young, and Tejada for the Mets in the 5th. Want to pass along our thanks to a couple of guys who are working their final game of the season today. Our associate director Dan Barr, who is leaving us for the rest of the year to tie the knot.
Tie the knot and honeymoon.
Well, we wish Dan all the best on his nuptials. And we look forward to seeing pictures, since, you know, we weren't invited to the wedding.
Well, Dan has really got himself in great shape. He's got himself ready for the big step in life.
You seen him on that treadmill?
He's in fighting weight.
Oh, my goodness.
Tell you.
So thank you, Dan, for all your great work this year, and good luck on your your impending nuptials. Congratulations. Also want to throw out our thanks to Russ Relkin, our stage manager, who's working his final game of the season today.
Russ is always a big help back here. Professional. Nothing but professionals on the staff.
And Shopping is hit by the pitch, and the Mets have a leadoff base runner.
Well, let me tell you one thing. You could have called him back here. Did you try to get out of the way of this?
No, he stuck his elbow
I'm
right
telling
into
you
it.
right now. Excuse me. Come back. Can't do that.
Why would you want to get hit on the elbow?
Leading off an inning. That is. I'm sorry you didn't call him back there.
The pitch is almost in the strike zone.
Yep.
That was a Dick Dietz play.
Dick Dietz, Don Drysdale.
Young gets the bunt down nicely. Nolasco with the toss to first. 1-4 on the sacrifice. So Young, who doubled his first time up, now has a sacrifice to go with that hit, and the go-ahead run in scoring position with 1 out. Dick Dietz, 1968. Giants had the bases loaded against Don Drysdale, who was right on the verge of setting a record for most consecutive scoreless innings. Hit by the pitch.
Bases loaded.
Yep. And Harry Wendelstedt was.
Harry Wendelstedt called him back.
Said he did not make an attempt to get out of the way. The streak continued. Eventually got to 58 innings.
I was 14 years old. That game was on TV. I saw it live on television.
Of course, that streak was later broken by another Dodger in 1988, Oral Hershiser. And Tejada lifts one to center. Easy for Hernandez. It's always easy for Hernandez. 2 out. This has to be the right
Plural.
Hernandez.
Plural.
You know, I was just thinking, we were having this discussion before about how you said it's time for the fire and how great you are at building a fire. Are you going to be chillier when you lose the hair on your upper lip?
I might. It always feels weird when you've had the mustache for a while, and then, it feels very soft, very strange. And I'll let you know in the broadcast Thursday how it feels.
Now, my question is, after you get it shaved off, cut off, I'm not sure exactly what the procedure is, or a little snip and then a shave, is that how that works?
I don't know. It's the barber. I'm in his hands.
I mean, he's a celebrity too,
right?
So he obviously
celebrity. He does celebrities. I don't know if I fit that, but
oh, come on, you're Keith Hernandez.
As well. Don't take my lines away from me.
MVP 1979. Anyway, what I was going to ask is, once you get it shaved off on Thursday, are you going to continue?
I'll do it.
Shave it for a while?
I will go the rest of the year with it shaved.
The year, like
no,
the calendar?
season.
Well, that's only another week.
Yeah, then I'll make a decision. But no, I'll keep it off for a bit.
Well, here's the thing: you don't want to be going out in public when it's just like 3 or 4 days growth and it's all nubby. I mean, you don't want to ruin your image. Right? Don't you have to grow it back in completely before you can go out in public?
Gary, I don't know what to tell you. I've never really given that much thought, to be honest with you.
I'm just trying to protect your image, my friend.
I could say something, but I won't. I won't go there because I've given my producer enough heart attacks over the years.
Murphy trying to pick up the run from second with 2 out. And Daniel takes the slider in the dirt, 2-2. Well, I wish you luck in your endeavor. And the great part about it is that it's all for charity.
Yeah, it's just, come on. I'm only getting my mustache shaved, and it's $10,000 to the Jacqueline Hernandez Daycare Center and at Cobble Hill Healthcare Center in Brooklyn, so it's a good thing.
Well, you say only, but not everybody gets their mustache shaved off in public.
Well, I'm just going to sit there.
Be fairly important.
I'm actually going to. I'm not doing the games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right,
so I can kind of grow a little bit of a growth because I don't. Mr. Gowdy, our boss, always wants us clean shaven in the broadcasts. If we don't shave, especially with the HD TV, everything shows up today. You can't fool anybody, particularly Mr. Gowdy, and when he's watching the games. However, I'm going to have a little growth. I'm going to get a complete full shave.
I don't know that scruffy is necessarily so bad. It worked for Don Johnson. Murphy hanging in there against Nolasco. He's up to 80 pitches now, working in the 5th inning. Shopping at second and 2 out. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming to Murphy. And the curveball hit to shortstop. Reyes out of play perfectly, and he throws out Murphy to end the inning. 5 in the books now at Citi Field. Mets and Marlins tied at 2. Running 10 DVD celebration of Mets history, World Series films, season highlights, and celebrated games. Order your 10 DVD anniversary gift set at Mets.com. 6th inning, Chris Young now in a 2-2 game. An unearned run against him in the 5th inning, enabling the Marlins to tie. Carlos Lee has been up twice, struck out both times. Lee now 0 for 10 in this series. It'll be Lee, Dobbs, and Solano for the Marlins in the 6th.
Well, remember when Chris Young came back, Gary, and we were talking, and you were concerned about the severity of his surgery, and we were asking each other how many starts Chris Young and how you think he'll last. Remember, we kind of made an estimate, and I said he'd give us 20 starts. Remember? Do you remember that?
You're going to be right on.
Jeez, he's got 8. This is his 19th. It's been remarkable, hasn't it?
It has been.
He's held together after a serious surgery. Oh, jeez, what is going on?
That's a tough job.
I mean, come on, I'm back here trying to call the pitches. Don't be doing that.
Two and 0 to Lee. And he hits one to left field, chasing Duda back. And right at the edge of the track to grab it. One away. It's interesting that you say that, Keith, because, you know, Johan Santana came back from the same surgery that Young did. And Johan made 21 starts this year. And Young's probably going to get to 20. Justin Hampson up in the bullpen for the Mets.
Two different style of pitchers, where Young is body works together, is got an effortless motion. Where Santana, there's Ramon Ramirez and Hampson up. Hanson, of course, the lefty. Where Santana's motion is everything is into every pitch. It's a violent motion. A lot of exertion and torque.
Well, to me, what's fascinating is that, you know, Santana had the surgery in 2010. Had his season cut short that year. Had the surgery, I think it was August of 2010. And then ended up missing all of last year and came back this spring. Whereas Young had his surgery last May. And it took him less than a calendar year to come back. As Dobbs swings and misses 1 and 2. But I think what that shows is that that anterior capsule surgery is still a mystery. It's a relatively rare surgery, and it's a coincidence that two pitchers on the same staff wound up having the same injury and the same surgery. Dobbs down on strikes. Strikeout number 5 for Young. 2 out and nobody on.
Fastball right down Broadway. This is right down the middle.
But when you consider that really no other pitcher had ever come back from that surgery before, I mean, you think of Mark Pryor and Chen-Ming Wang, who's come back but hasn't had any level of success, and then you look at these two guys, it shows you that, you know, the medical knowledge about that surgery is still evolving in terms of recovery time, in terms of getting guys back on the mound. There's Donovan Solano, who's 1 for 2, and he lines a base hit into left field. So Solano just continues to be a tough out for the Mets in this series. His 3rd straight multiple hit game. He's 7 for 11 in the 3 games. So a 2-out base runner and Rob Brantley the batter. Milwaukee has gone in front of Washington 2-0. That game is in the 4th. Brewers try to close some ground back against the Cardinals. 2.5 behind. St. Louis no score with the Cubs in the bottom of the 2nd.
So when you're at this point of the season, when you're ahead, all you got to do is win. No one can catch you.
And the games become more and more crucial every day if you're behind.
I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. You can get nervous and go, oh my gosh, we got to win. You know, the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. Or you can think positively, hey, we got the lead. They got to catch us. We win. They can't catch us. Pressure's on them.
Remember when the Mets were in that equation? Playing from ahead. And it was the Marlins on the last day of the season who knocked them out 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Different Marlins team now. It's a different Mets team now as well. You know, other than David Wright, there's really nobody left from those 07, 08 Mets. Santana, I guess, would be the other one. He was here in 08.
That's when we had
breaking ball by Young 1 and 2.
The 1 year we had the big beef. Now, what was the catcher for the Marlins that went after Miguel Olivo went after Reyes. Wound up
Sandy Alomar.
Alomar got in the middle of that and got hit. 70 plus year old. 72 was he? 71 Sandy then?
He knew how to take a hit. There goes the runner. Brantley pops it up. And Tejada flips the glasses down and calls. And that retires the side. So Young works around a 2-out hit, sending us to the bottom of the 6th. David Wright to lead off in a 2-2 game. Visit CadillacTristate.com to view our attractive lease and finance offers and to find a Cadillac dealer near you. But David Wright delivered the keynote today with a 2-run homer in the first inning, his 19th of the year. Mets have not scored since. They've had only 2 hits since the first inning against Ricky Nolasco. Now in a 2-2 game, Wright leads off in the 6th with Davis and Hairston to follow. Right now with 84 runs batted in, he's regained the club lead in RBIs by 1 over Ike Davis for the moment. And the first pitch curveball for a strike, same way Nolasco went after him in his last at bat when he got him to ground to short. And the fastball misses 1-1. Well, in Detroit, the Tigers had a 2-0 lead on the Twins, but Minnesota just scored 5 in the 6th to go up 5-2 on Detroit. That's the first of a doubleheader with the Tigers a half game out of first place in the AL Central. That AL Central often produces a game 163. Might happen again. Out to right field. Dobbs shading his eyes and stays with it to make the catch. Sunglasses and glove were enough to keep the sun away.
Well, he handled that like an old pro out there.
Better than he did on the ball that Chris Young hit over his head.
Look at him getting the shadow from his glove on his face. He had it all the way. Plus, he's got the shades on.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Ike Davis, who struck out looking in the first and grounded out to first base in the 4th. Marlins put on a modified shift against Ike with Reyes right behind the second base bag. And the curveball in for a strike.
All of a sudden, Nolasco is getting the curveball. I remember earlier, Gary, and all you kids, if you were paying attention to me, you college kids out there and high school kids, he was getting his curveball down the dirt early. Well, now he's found the range. So that's the old adage, you know, the good pitchers, you get them early. Don't let them get their groove. And ever since the first inning, the 2-run homer to Wright, Nolasco has only given up 2 hits and cruising.
Those kids, by the way, have no choice but to pay attention to you.
That's right. I'm not here just to talk for no reason. I got to be listened to.
You have an audience. Right in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, right.
1-2 from Nolasco, and the breaking ball. Ike tries to lay off, but he went around for strike 3.
Oh,
Tim
boy.
Wilkie with the call, and Davis is down on strikes, the 4th for Nolasco.
I don't know if he swung here. Let's see. Oh, come on. Please.
Well, we've talked about it a lot the last few years. The parameters of the check swing have changed in the last decade. Hitter does not any longer get any benefit of the doubt.
There's no way that's a swing. I'm sorry.
Who would do that? Tim Wilkie, on the other hand,
Concur.
he begs to differ. Get you a long way. Scott Hairston drills one to left, but right at Peterson, and that retires the side. 1-2-3 go the Mets in the bottom of the 6th. That sends us on to the 7th. Mets and Marlins tied at 2. From Detroit. You know, it's always a perfect day at the ballpark when you've got cerulean blue skies.
Oh, excellent terminology.
Here's the Acela Club right over the Geico sign. Look at those skies. I mean, you cannot have a better blue.
It's beautiful.
It's almost like it's painted.
You don't have the summer clouds anymore. They're more for that wintry, fallish. It's just a beautiful day.
You know, that color, that's Columbia blue.
North Carolina too. You at the St. Coast, North Carolina,
They
right?
stole it from us. That's Ramon Ramirez comes on in relief of Chris Young as we go to the 7th.
Well, it hasn't been the year that the Mets expected from Ramon. Acquired from the Giants. He's a free agent next year. Don't know if he'll be back.
Gil Velasquez leads off for the Marlins in the 7th. Had a bloop single and scored the tying run in the 5th. So Chris Young went 6 innings. He allowed 2 runs, only 1 of them earned on 5 hits, walked 2 and struck out 5, and no decision for Young, which means that Chris has now had 9 career starts for the Mets at Citi Field and still does not have a win in this ballpark. Out to left center field. And who's going to call? Duda at the last moment makes the catch. A little bit of uncertainty there, but 1 out.
I just noticed in the Lasco in the on-deck circle looking back on the dugout to see if he wanted to, skipper wanted to go hit. I wouldn't look. I'd make him whistle and get my attention. Shoot, I'm at 2-2 here. I want to get a win.
Velasquez throwing 90 pitches through 6 innings. Should certainly be good for at least 1 more inning. Bullpen empty for the Marlins.
So he should not even look back. But then again, you never pay attention to those things when you're a player.
Velasquez takes a fastball from Ramirez for a strike. What's with the towel? Is he cold?
I don't know.
Or is it just his thing? Like Dusty with the toothpick.
My hands are cold.
Really?
Yeah.
You're getting old.
I wonder if, how's your top of your head? Is it cold?
No, I'm not cold at all. I'm very comfortable today. I mean, it's not quite Christmas yet. 1-2 to the Velasquez.
We need to refocus. Can we do a reset?
We're in the 7th inning here at Citi Field. The Mets and the Marlins are tied at 2. I'm Gary Cohen with Keith Hernandez. Okay, here's your reset. 2-2 now to the Velasquez with Brian Peterson on deck. In Boston, the Orioles just tied up the Red Sox 1-1 in the 5th. Every game crucial for Baltimore right now as they try and catch the Yankees. The Yankees are tied with Oakland 4-4 in the 5th. Baltimore 1 game behind. Both those teams have been red hot. Baltimore's won 6 in a row. The Yankees 7 in a row.
Minnesota's beaten Detroit 5-2 in the 7th.
This will be the 7th pitch of the at bat from Ramirez to Velasquez. And it's wide for ball 3. So Velasquez wasn't sure if he was going to hit. He's spending a lot of time doing just that. And he goes down on strikes for the 2nd out. So Ramirez has retired the first 2. And now to the top of the batting order for Brian Peterson, who drove in the first Marlins run with a sacrifice fly in the 5th. Miami got both their runs in the 5th against Chris Young. The first on the sac fly by Peterson, the second on a throwing error by Kelly Shopping. Young finishes the day with a season earned run average of 4.21. And today was his last home start of the season, so his last chance to get a win for the Mets this year at Citi Field. And as Keith mentioned earlier, they're only two pitchers in Mets history who've had, besides Young now, who've had 8 or more home starts in a season without getting a win. Craig Anderson for the '62 Mets at the Polo Grounds, and Anthony Young at Shea in '93. And now Chris Young joins that company. Nonetheless, you'd have to say that as Chris heads into what might be his final start of the season, it has been a very successful comeback year for him. There's a strike, 2-1 to Peterson. And certainly a better start for Chris today than his last one against the Marlins here at Citi Field, that 13-0 debacle. Do you remember that game when we sat up in the Pepsi porch?
Yes.
And Reyes led off the game with a home run and nearly took out a fan in the front row. There's a fly ball deep to right. Hairston shading his eyes, back on the track at the wall, leaps to make the catch, battling it all the way. Hairston up against the fence. Fine play by Scott to rob Brian Peterson and retire the side. Visit ChooseNissan.com. Mets got a deuce in the first. Marlins matched in the fifth. Play of the game brought to you by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. It's a daily double for David Wright. Beautiful pickup on Gorky Hernandez, and then going to the railing to make a nice grab. On the ball hit by Rob Grantley. 2-2 game as we go to the bottom of the seventh. Ricky Nolasco back to the mound, and Lucas Duda will lead off for New York. Nolasco has held the Mets to 2 hits since he gave up Wright's 2-run homer in the first inning. Nolasco has walked 1 and struck out 4. He's hit a batter, looking for his 13th win of the year. You look at Nolasco, he's 13 games over 500 for his career with an ERA of about 4.5. And what it tells you is he's either very good or very bad. Today, other than the home run of the first inning, he's been very good.
Jackets and sweaters in the shade.
Here you go again. Are you going to shovel snow when you get home?
No.
Dude has been on base twice today, a bloop single and a walk. In fact, he's been on base 5 of 6 plate appearances in this series. that began with a pop fly single on Friday night that got him taken out of the game when he didn't run hard and got a single instead of a double. Lesson learned, and Duda's been right back in there the next 2 days.
He owned up to it. He said he was right. We've done the same thing. So, as you said, lesson learned.
Andres Torres on deck, then Kelly Shopik here in the bottom of the 7th. And that's ball 3. So Nolasco, who's able to throw strikes to everybody else, has been unable to throw strikes to Duda today, or perhaps unwilling. Which would be odd since Lucas is just 2 for 13 against him. Swinging 3-0, and he bounces it foul. Not sure if that's the pitch you want to swing at 3-0.
Middle end, if you're going to get a 3-0 hit sign, unless, of course, you get the 3-0 hit sign and it's late in the ball game and a base hit's all that's required, then you might be able to look away. But
go the other way.
But this situation right here, you look at Mike Dunn, the left-hander up for the Marlins. This is a middle end fastball looking to hit one out. Not a change up away.
And that's a strike. Duda was all set to go to first base, but Paul Schreiber said no. And now it's 3-2. Duda gets jammed and fouls it off. Twins have added a run. They lead the Tigers 6-2 in the 7th. That's a doubleheader in Detroit today. White Sox soon to start in Anaheim, carrying a half-game lead over Detroit.
Not sure what he wants to throw. Nolasco steps off. I don't like Lucas looking for a walk. He's not here to walk. He's here to get some base hits.
Again, the 3-2, and he fouls off the slider. Well, happy birthday. Isn't it Bruce Springsteen's birthday today?
It's Renee's birthday today.
Well, happy birthday.
Renee is going to have to stop by and give her my birthday wishes.
Did you bake her a cake?
No, I didn't. She's actually working today over at can't think of the name of it. Anyway, doesn't matter. Claudio's out on in Greenport.
There's the action on the party deck, where it's always somebody's birthday. 9th pitch of the at bat, and Duda hits it in the air to deep center field. Back goes Hernandez, and he's got room in front of the warning track and puts it away.
Hernandez has played a nice little center field since it is 3-game series. And Velasquez has played a wonderful third base. He knows what he's doing out there.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Andres Torres comes up. Torres is lined into a double play and struck out. And he drags a bunt. And they'll let it roll, and it goes foul. Nice try by Torres. By the way, we have confirmation. It is Bruce's birthday today. The boss is 63. I hope I'm in that good shape when I'm 63.
Did you see that Leonard Cohen's going to be playing a concert? I'm not sure if it's at the Garden or the Beacon. I think it's going to be the Garden. Either in December or November. I think
it's a big venue for Leonard Cohen.
Oh well, his new album, his live album, he did a concert in London, is wonderful. And I'm going to fly up for that concert. I've never seen him, and I'm going to make a point to get to it.
I just think of him as a smaller venue kind of guy. 1-2 to Torres.
Well, then the beacon would be wonderful.
Yeah, perfect. Just good enough for the Allman Brothers. They love the beacon.
I saw Pete Townsend there do a solo route act.
Did he break anything?
He fell down, actually.
Torres pops it up to shallow right. Dobbs again shading his eyes, having trouble, and it drops in. Torres racing for second, and he's in standing with a double. Well, right field has been a problem all day. The sun right in the outfielder's eyes. They're battling wind out there as well. Dobbs has done a great job last inning on Wright's fly ball, but this one never found it.
He never saw it. He knew it was in shallow, but. And Torres hustling. We know one thing about Torres. He hustles. He runs everything out. I'll give him that much credit.
'15th double of the year for Torres. So the Mets have the tie-breaking run in scoring position. Shopik, the batter, has struck out and been hit by a pitch. And swings at the curveball and misses. 0-1. Mike Baxter has come out on deck to pinch hit for Ramon Ramirez. Giancarlo Stanton getting the entire series off with the strained muscle in his side. That is much to the Mets' benefit as they go for the sweep of the series.
Another big, strong guy, and he can't stay healthy. It's like a Maserati. Temperamental engines.
I thought it was Fiats that had to be fixed all the time. That's what Fiat stands for, fix it all the time.
Oh, okay. Another acronym.
Velasco up to 105 pitches. Ahead of the count on Shopik 0-2. And it's in the dirt and scoots far enough away for Torres to break, and he makes it safely. Good base running by Torres, and now the go-ahead run at third.
And they're going to have to bring the infield in here. And Torres, nice lead by Torres. Nicely read. The slightest bit of hesitation, he would have been thrown out. Infield in.
Wild pitch charge to Nolasco. Now Nolasco needing a strikeout, ahead on Shopik 1-2. And Shopik yanks one foul that almost took out Tim Tuffle. Kelly has really struggled in these situations this year. He's just 1 for 9 getting a runner home from third with less than 2 out. Doesn't take a very deep fly ball to get Torres in with his speed. It's had a 2-0 lead. Marlins tied it. Mets trying to go back in front here in the 7th. Now the 1-2, and the curveball struck him out. So Shopik unable to get the run in. 5 strikeouts for Nolasco, and that's a big one.
No, hanging curveball too. Foul just swung right through it.
Now Mike Baxter will be the pinch hitter. Baxter played in the opening game of the series coming off the bench and was on base 3 times in a row with 2 hits and a walk. And they are apparently going to walk him intentionally.
No one's paying attention. He's like going, geez.
Complacency setting in. So Baxter will get the intentional pass. They'd rather pitch to the right-hand batter Tejada. They had the lefty done up earlier, but rather than make the pitching change, they'll go about it this way.
Well, I agree with this. Tejada, he got a nice day yesterday. Well, Tejada only had one hit.
Yeah, Rubens had one hard hit ball today. He was robbed of a hit by Gil Velasquez. A nice backhand play at third. And there's ball 4 and Baxter's on. Well, Velasco going deep into this one. 112 pitches under his belt. And he'll get at least one more batter with Tejada coming up. Rubens 0 for 3 today. 2 for 11 in this series. Ozzie walking behind Joey Cora, his bench coach. Was also Ozzie's bench coach in Chicago. Joey, the older brother of Alex, the former Met. Is Mike Dunn up in the bullpen, the left-hander, with Murphy on deck. Velasco against Tejada, 1st and 3rd and 2 down. And Ruben takes it wide for ball 1.
So if you're Velasco, you know if you lose Tejada, you're out of the Wago. And the left-hander will come in to face Murphy. So all the more reason to bear down here and get the out if you want to stay in this game and get a W. Could be a Larry if he gives up a base hit.
Tejada fouls off the curveball, and it's 1-1. One to Tejada, and Ruben takes a strike on the slider, and it's 1-2. Brantley holding it nicely for Paul Schreiber to call. So now Tejada has to fight out of a hole. Velasco's thrown as many as 121 pitches in a game this year, at 115 now. 1-2. Curveball blooped in the air, shallow right field, but Dobbs is there. And this time wins his battle with the sun and keeps the game tied. Dobbs, who let one fall in for Torres, was equal to the task of keeping the sunshine out of his eyes and just held on to end the inning. Commer, your local Dodge dealers today. The Braves lead the Phillies 2-1 in the 7th behind Tim Hudson. Yovani Gallardo, who's been red hot, has the Brewers in front of the Nats 2-0 in the 5th. Pirates trying to snap a 5-game losing streak. No score in Houston, trying to avoid getting swept. Cardinals up 3-0 now in the Cubs. Allen Craig continues raging hot for St. Louis. Diamondbacks and Rockies just getting started. The Giants, who clinched last night, host the Padres, and the Reds, who clinched last night, host the Dodgers, who badly need a win with Aaron Harang on the mound today. Manny Acosta will pitch the 8th inning for New York. Manny last pitched on Thursday in that game in which the Mets used 10 pitchers in 9 innings against the Phillies. Gorky Hernandez leads off in the 8th and went around on the half swing, 0-1.
Well, just a terrible start for Acosta. Got sent down and was called back up on July 24th from Buffalo, and since then in 19 2/3 has an ERA of 1.83.
It's funny because the exact same thing happened last year. When he got called back up is when he thrived. Now he's got to figure out how to get that going from the start of the season. Hernandez, Reyes, and Lee up for the Marlins in the 8th. And the fastball fouled off, 1-2 to Hernandez. The A's just went back in front of the Yankees 5-4 in the 6th. Cliff Pennington driving in the go-ahead run. Baltimore and Boston still tied 1-1 in the 6th at Fenway. Which means, you know, the Orioles are going to play extra innings and win again. Fly ball, center field. And Torres doesn't need the sunglasses. 1 away. The way the ballpark is configured here at Citi Field, it's turned a little bit differently than Shea Stadium was, and so the sun sets not right behind the plate, but behind the third base stand.
You can see
that right field is by far the worst sun field.
And it used to be the center field, used to be the sun field.
Right. I mean, Shea, the shadows came directly from behind home plate. It was configured east to west, and so the sun came right over the top of the stadium behind the plate. Different here. And we've seen it with Dobbs today and with Hairston as well in right field. It's a real battle for that right fielder on these kinds of sunny days. Reyes takes it high, and Acosta behind 2-0. Jose is 0 for 2 and a walk today. And 3-0. Reyes, when he walked in the 4th inning, was able to steal second, get to third on a passed ball, but he was stranded. Carlos Lee, who's had a very tough series, waiting on deck. And Reyes takes a strike. The Marlins 2 runs, 5 hits. The Mets 2 runs, 5 hits. And Reyes fouls back the fastball, and it's 3-2. Heath Bell up alongside Mike Dunn now in the Miami bullpen. Three-2 from Acosta, and Reyes lifts one down the right field line, and that'll sail just beyond Davis's reach and into the crowd. Chris Young went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, only 1 earned on 5 hits. Ramon Ramirez worked a 1-2-3 7th with help from Scott Hairston, who made a leaping grab on Brian Peterson's fly ball against the fence. Justin Hampson up again in the Mets bullpen with Dobbs, a left-hand hitter, 2 batters away. 3-2 to Reyes. Breaking ball foul. Reyes 1 for 9 in this series. And for the most part, the Mets have held Jose in check in their first season facing him. Of course, they'll have 3 more games against Jose and the Marlins to close out the season in Miami. 3-2. And again, a foul ball. So a pitched battle here between Acosta and Reyes. Reyes is 3 for 3 against Acosta in his career. This will be the 9th pitch of the at bat. And there'll be a 10th.
2 foul balls into the Met dugout.
So Acosta expending energy here, trying to get his old teammate out. And Reyes is providing souvenirs galore. Acosta coming to the stretch in that Mariano Rivera style. 11th pitch coming to Reyes, and he hits it on the ground for Murphy, and Daniel makes the play for the second out. So Acosta wears down Reyes and gets the ground out for the second out. So now Carlos Lee with 2 out and nobody on. Lee now 0 for 11 in the series. 0 for 3 today. Flied pretty deep to left his last time up. Shadows growing. There's a nice breaking ball for a strike.
And they're slowly creeping up that third base line too, getting closer to the fair territory.
That ball stayed down. Tejada stayed with it. And the high throw goes into the dugout, and Lee will go to second base. Ruben Tejada had an adjustment to make on the ground ball and then just made a horrible throw.
It's something you'd never see. He just kind of goosed it. And Ike, so far over his head, Ike didn't even attempt to leap to grab it.
12th error of the year for Tejada. Mets' second error of the game puts the tie-breaking run in scoring position with 2 out. Greg Dobbs the batter, and rather than bring in the left-hander, the Mets are going to intentionally walk him and bring up Solano, who's had the best series of any Marlin with 2 men on. Terry had Justin Hampson up in the bullpen, but rather than using him here, he'll keep Acosta in to face Solano, presumably.
Solano been swinging a hot bat.
Only 7 for 11 in this series.
But you got to play the percentages here. A veteran hitter in Dobbs.
Well, your option was to bring in Hampson to face Dobbs. But the Mets go the other way, and Acosta will get the assignment against Solano. Miami 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position today. And Hampson scratching his head and saying to himself, well, why'd they get me up? There is a left-hand hitter on deck in Rob Brantley, so if Solano gets on, then perhaps Hampson would be called upon. Solano 2 for 3 today, has multiple hits in each of the 3 games of the series. And the rookie takes a strike, 0-1.
Well, you know, you're always going to make a rookie beat you as opposed to a veteran late in a game in an RBI situation with the game in the balance.
Solano with his 2 hits today, up to 292 on the year. 24 runs driven in. And he pops it up. Who's going to take it? Torres takes charge. Side retired. An error and 2 men left on. We go to the bottom of the 8th at Citi Field. Mets and Marlins tied up.
To you by Volvo, right here, the 2-run home run, and that was in the first inning. Gave the Mets a 2-run bulge. But the Marlins take advantage of a throwing error by Shopik. They get 2 back to tie the ball game in the 5th, and that's where we're at here in the bottom of the 8th. And this video recap is brought to you by Volvo.
That was brilliantly done.
Thank you.
Hard throwing lefty Mike Dunn comes on to pitch for the Marlins.
Well, Dunn has been a big trade with Atlanta, and he has had issues with his control. He's a hard thrower, and they just haven't got the confidence to bring him in the tight situations with men on base because he just hasn't been able to find the plate. You see, he's fit as a fiddle. Throws really hard, but he's just got to throw more strikes.
It'll be Murphy right and Davis up for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th inning. Ricky Nolasco out of the game after 7, allowed 2 runs and 5 hits, walked 2, 1 intentional, struck out 5 in a wild pitch, and gave up the first inning home run to Wright, which was all he allowed today. Murphy had a double in front of that Wright home run in the first. Murph is 1 for 3 on the day, and now facing the left-hander Dunn, and takes a fastball for a strike. Murphy 1 for 5 in his career against Dunn. And the slider off the plate, a ball and a strike. Well, the White Sox are going to have an opportunity today to increase their lead because Detroit's now down 8-2 to Minnesota in the 8th inning.
Is that a day-night doubleheader they have with Minnesota today?
It's a doubleheader. Is it a day-nighter or is it a straight? It is a day-night, you're right.
Day-night, yeah. Why on a Sunday would you have a day-night?
It's a good question. I mean, they had the rain out Friday night, and if they have the night game, that means they can't televise it. So that's odd. Here's the 1-2 from Dunn and a fastball outside. I guess they didn't want to give up the extra gate. That happens. And Murphy watches wide, and now a full count. The Nats broke through against Giovanni Gallardo. It's now Milwaukee 2, Washington 1. They're in the 5th. Crucial game for the Brewers. Trying to catch the Cardinals, who lead 3-1 in Chicago in the 4th. Swing and a miss, and done with the fastball, strikes out Murphy. 1 away.
Fastball away. Beat him.
Now with David Wright coming to the plate, Ozzie Guillen heads to the mound, and he's going to bring in Heath Bell to face David Wright. So Dunn faces one batter, strikes out Murphy, and now Bell coming on to face Wright. The call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Introducing Verizon Fios Quantum Speed. Internet twice as fast as anything America has ever seen. Disappointment as a free agent signing comes on to pitch here in the 8th inning.
Well, he was going to be the closer here, the all-star closer all those years with San Diego, those wonderful years. He came over here, and as you can see, it has just been a disaster.
Comes in to face David Wright, who's responsible for the 2 Met runs, a home run back in the 1st inning. David is 3 for 8 against Bell with a home run. Well, one of the signature games, in a bad way for Bell, came early this season here at Citi Field when he just could not throw a strike and walk the ballpark. And the Mets were able to beat him, and it led to him finally losing the closer's job. Now just trying to put together a respectable second half, and he has been better since the All-Star break with lightened responsibilities.
Well, the funny thing about it was, if you recall, down the right field line, it's foul. He threw all the curveballs in the dirt and couldn't find the plate with his curveball and was wild with the curve in the dirt. And he said after the game, the scouting report said that the Mets were free swingers when the Mets were anything but that in the first half. But one of the more patient clubs at the plate.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's become a pattern with Bell. He's a guy who seems to blame everybody but himself for his troubles. It's going to be interesting to see if the Marlins even bring him back next year or try and deal him elsewhere. But, you know, the way the performance of relief pitchers goes, there's every chance that Bell will bounce back and have a good year next year.
Exactly.
So they might well decide to give him a second chance, hang on to him, and hope that he thrives next year. Shadows just encroaching on home plate now. 1-2 to David, and the breaking ball off Bell's glove, deflecting to Solano, and he makes the play on right. 1-4-3 putout for the second out.
Well, Solano was playing David up the middle, so I'm not sure if that would have gone up the middle, but obviously you can see Solano way up the middle here. He would have had a play on this ball.
It wasn't a scorching line drive. So now Ike Davis will bat with 2 out and nobody on. Ike is 0 for 3 today, struck out twice and grounded out. Bell works him up and away for ball 1.
Well, we always see the shift on Ike, and then recall last year when Ike came up and had success, they couldn't do this. He used a lot of left center field, but he's pulled a lot this year, been out in front.
Bell keeping the ball away from Davis. 2-0 with Hairston on deck. Ike's only had 1 official at bat against Heath Bell, 0 for 1 against him. And that's down for ball 3. Well, Duda was swinging 3-0 in the last inning. See if Ike's swinging 3-0 here. If anybody's going to get the green light, you'd figure it would be Davis. And he swings and fouls it off. Ike's next home run will match the number on his uniform. Cubs got another run to get closer against the Cardinals, and the Nats have tied up the Brewers. Now it's 3-1 to Davis. And that grounds one into the shift. Solano on the outfield grass. It comes up for him, and he throws out Davis to end the inning. So Bell gets his 2 hitters. 2-2 as we go to the 9th. As it goes up in lower Manhattan. Well, this is normally a spot where you bring in your closer. 2-2 in the 9th at home, but Frank Francisco is still out with his barking elbow, and he may be shut down for the year and still up in the air. But Bobby Parnell will pitch the top of the 9th.
Well, Parnell pitched the first game of this series, did a nice job in relief for Jonathan Neese. So an inning and 2/3, no hits, no runs.
Lower third of the order due up for the Marlins. Rob Brantley, Gil Velasquez in the pitcher spot. The Marlins don't have a whole lot of bench. They've got their backup catcher John Buck, and they've got left-hand hitting outfielder Scott Cousins, and that's about it unless one of their walking wounded is able to grab a bat. Very odd for a team to have so few available bench players this time of year. In fact, Cousins was just called up yesterday because they were so shorthanded. Velasquez on deck, but Justin Ruggiano hurt himself Friday night. Stanton's been out for almost a week now. Kearns had his back seize up on him after Friday's game, and so that leaves them with only 2 available bench players. And Parnell fires a strike, and it's 0-2 to Brantley, who's 1 for 3 on the day. Singled and scored the first Miami run in the 5th. Marlins got both their runs in the 5th inning without a whole lot of hard hit balls against Chris Young. Late swing and a foul. Brantley had a base hit the other way. Velasquez blooped to hit. A sacrifice, a sac fly, a walk, a stolen base, and then a throwing error by Kelly Shopik, bringing in the tying run, and it's been tied ever since. And Brantley hits a comebacker. Parnell with the toss, one away. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Gil Velasquez, who's 1 for 3 today, a bloop single in the 5th. Velasquez 5 for 10 in this series. 32-year-old rookie trying to make an impression, perhaps win a job as a bench player for the Marlins next year. Parnell from the sunshine into the shadow, misses inside for ball 1.
Shadows aren't quite out enough yet to be a negative for the hitters.
Ball and a strike to Velasquez. Scott Cousins has come out on deck to be the pinch hitter for the Marlins. Ricky Webb on the left, Steve Cishek on the right. Cishek the closer, not throwing hard unless the Marlins get a run to create a save opportunity, and there's Cousins on deck. Two and 1 to Velasquez. Mets have gotten 2 hitless innings out of their bullpen so far. Ramon Ramirez got him 1-2-3 in the 7th. Manny Acosta worked around an error and an intentional walk in the 8th. Now Velasquez pulls one foul, and it's 2-2. Gone to the 9th in Philadelphia. Braves 2, Phillies 1. Braves still hoping to take a shot at the Nats for the division title, but that's a long shot. But very much locked into that first wild card spot. They had a 6-game lead on the Cardinals and an 8.5 game lead on the field in the wild card, so they're just about home free. But for the Phillies, a loss today would be a death knell. They may be too far behind already. 3-2, and Velasquez fouls it off. Philly 4 games behind St. Louis coming into the day, with 3 teams in front of them. Cardinals still lead 3-2 in Chicago. That game's now in the 5th. So the Pirates have scored some runs. It's been hard for them lately, leading in Houston 4-0. Pirates will be here tomorrow night for the first of 4 games. Henry Mejia will start the first game of the series for the Mets tomorrow, hoping to make a better impression than he did in that first start in Milwaukee.
He threw a lot of behind the counts. Wasn't throwing strikes out there in Milwaukee his first start.
You see the rest of the American League board. Baltimore and Boston still 1-1 in the 7th. Oakland up 5-4 on the Yankees, with Baltimore a game behind the Yankees. 3-2, and it's hit up the middle of the diamond. Tejada slides over to get it and throws out Velasquez. 2 out. So Parnell with a couple of ground outs records the first 2 outs, and now Scott Cousins will be the pinch hitter. Cousins pinch hit yesterday and grounded out. He was home and getting ready to get married in a couple of weeks. And the Marlins called after Ruggiano got hurt Friday night, said we need you here. And so he flew in after having been home for about 3 weeks after the minor league season ended. Got to be a little tough at that point to get it revved back up.
Well, you'll take the time in, won't you?
Absolutely. But I'm just saying in terms of having any kind of hitting stroke. Now you got to face 97 miles an hour or a curveball. Strike call, nothing in 1. And Cousins tops one foul, and quickly Parnell ahead 0-2. In the bottom of the 9th, the Mets will have Hairston, Duda, and Torres due up. Dunn and Bell combined to pitch the bottom of the 8th. We'll see who Ozzie goes to for the bottom of the 9th. Parnell's 0-2, and he gets him swinging. Weak cut by Cousins. He's a strikeout victim, and Parnell has a 1-2-3 inning. 3 hitless innings for the Mets bullpen. Now they'll try and win it in the bottom of the 9th. Will come on for the Marlins.
Well, you can see Webb's numbers here in 60 games.
Much better the second half of the season. He's got a 1.66 ERA since the All-Star break. But trouble against lefties this year, and the Mets will have Duda coming up second in the inning.
Well, he's a sinker ball pitcher and can get a little bit wild around the plate and get behind from what I've seen.
Mets have 5 walk-off wins this year. Their last one came August 26th when they beat the Astros on a Ike Davis walk-off home run. Scott Hairston will lead off the 9th. Hairston, who homered in each of the first 2 games of this series, 0 for 3 today. It'll be Hairston, Duda, and Torres for the Mets in the last of the ninth. Each team with 2 runs and 5 hits. Mets have committed 2 errors today. One of them brought in the tying run in the 5th, and it's been tied ever since. And Webb ready to work. And a fastball strike to Hairston. Ricky Nolasco went 7, allowed 2 runs, 5 hits. Mike Dunn and Heath Bell combined for a 1-2, 3/8, and now Ryan Webb working the 9th. I'm told no relation to Bill.
Thank goodness.
He is, however, related to Hank. Right. A former Met. It's his dad. Webbs. They're everywhere.
Well, there's a Webb at Gettysburg, too, on the Union side. A General Webb was a monument to him.
Up the middle, and Hairston's got a leadoff base hit. So the Mets get the potential winning run aboard to start the 9th.
Well, the Mets looking to get something going here, get a walk-off win. It would give them a 3.5 game lead over the Marlins.
The battle to stay out of last place.
With 10 left to play.
Well, Duda, a single, a walk, and a deep fly ball to center field today, and you certainly wouldn't expect him to be bunted. Third baseman Velasquez, though, at the edge of the grass just in case. Duda has a hit in his only career at bat against Ryan Webb. Duda takes a high strike, 0-1. Andres Torres waits on deck. Kelly Shopik behind him. That's trying to figure out a way to win it in the bottom of the 9th. And Duda takes the off-speed pitch away, a ball and a strike. The Mets had lost 9 straight home games coming into this series. Now trying to sweep a series from Miami and trying to beat the Marlins for the 7th straight time. Got to keep an eye on Hairston. He can steal a base. He's got 8 this year. And Duda takes a slider for a strike, and it's 1-2. Webb's thrown up the kitchen sink. Fastball, change-up, slider. Now ahead in the count, 1-2. And Brantley keeps asking for the slider, and Webb keeps shaking him off, and so they'll talk it over. Philadelphia, they've gone to the bottom of the 9th. Craig Kimbrell on to try and save it with the Braves leading the Phillies 2-1. Trying to bury the Phillies once and for all. Hairston at first and nobody out. 1-2 now to Duda. And he foul tips it, held by Brantley, strike 3. So Webb wins that battle, takes care of Duda for the first out.
Slider down out of the strike zone. And he took the first pitch fastball, was the pitch to hit.
So now Torres, who had a Sun-aided double his last time up, 1 for 3 on the day. Hairston at first and 1 out. And it goes to the backstop, and Hairston goes to second. Webb trying to get it inside, got it too far in.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brantley has just had all kinds of issues this series. We've seen him, and like, that's got to be a pass ball. Let's box it and send me a dozen.
And it is a pass ball.
Jeez, he's just been brutal back there.
It's his second pass ball of the series. Now the winning run at second base with one out. 1-0 the count to Torres. And Andres fouls it off, a ball and a strike. Danny Valdespin has come out on deck to bat for Kelly Shopping. One from Webb, and Torres lays off. 2-1. Webb spent some time in the minor leagues right after the All-Star break. Had an awful first half this year. A much better second half. But a leadoff hit to Hairston. Now a pass ball has put the winning run in scoring position with one out. Reyes keeping an eye on Hairston out at second. And Torres takes ball 3.
That didn't miss by much. Little backdoor slider. May have curved around the plate.
Paul Schreiber, the home plate umpire. Now it's 3-1 to Torres with Valdespin on deck to pinch hit. And that's ball 4. And so Torres draws the walk. So it's in the hands of Valdespin now, first and second and one out. Valdespin batting for Shopping.
Well, this is Valdespin's milieu here, pinch hitting. He has thrived in the pinch hitting role, particularly earlier in the year. 8 for 38 with the 5 home runs we know about, 10 RBI.
Fred Lewis out on deck to bat for the pitcher. So Shopping leaving for the pinch hitter. Valdespin making his first appearance in this series. First time he's faced Ryan Webb. Chad Gaudin quickly up in the Miami bullpen. Hairston the only man that matters. He's at second with one out. And Valdespin grounds one to short. Could be 2. Reyes gets the out at second. The turn not in time. Valdespin beat the relay from Solano, and the Mets now have the winning run at third with 2 out.
Well, Valdespin runs well enough here, kind of swings down and chops the ball to short. Reyes gets rid of it quick, but Valdespin too much speed.
So now a chance for Fred Lewis to play hero. Lewis has started the opening game of the series on Friday night and went 0 for 3. 2 for 13 since coming up as a September call-up after being Buffalo's MVP this year in the International League. Bats here with the winning run at third and 2 out. Valdespin runs, and no throw, of course, by Brantley. Defensive indifference moves Valdespin. That takes away the force at second base.
Well, that's a good move right there now, because Carlos Lee was playing way behind.
And now they're going to walk Lewis intentionally and instead take on Tejada, the right-hand batter. So this will load him up. Final score in Detroit. Minnesota beat the Tigers 10-4. So for the moment, the White Sox have a 1-game lead on Detroit. White Sox and Angels, no score in the second, and the Tigers have another game tonight. So now it's left to Tejada. Second time today that a hitter has been intentionally walked in front of Tejada. Baxter was intentionally walked in the 7th, and Tejada flied out to end the inning. And now Ruben, who's 0 for 4 on the day, gets a crack at ending this game with the bases loaded and 2 down. And comfort for Dobbs in right field as the sun dips behind the clouds. Comfort perhaps for the hitter as well. And Ruben takes a first pitch fastball for a strike, just as Duda did before him.
Sometimes you got to get up there and just bear down and swing and get a first pitch fastball on the reliever. See a lot of taking. Shadows are very difficult right now for the hitter.
Sun comes back out as quickly as it disappeared. And Ruben lines one into left center for a game-winning hit. Hairston's in to score, and the Mets win it 3-2. Second game-winning walk-off hit for Ruben Tejada. He had one in 2010. The Mets' 6th walk-off win of the year.
Well, he wants the nasty sinker and he wants to throw a slider. And Ruben stays right there. And that's the Wago and a sweep for the Mets. There's the reaction from the bench. They open up a 3.5 game lead on the Marlins. A beautifully, nicely done sweep of the Marlins here.
It had been more than 3 months since the Mets swept a series here at Citi Field. The last time was in June against the Orioles. And Tejada's walk-off hit in the bottom of the 9th gives the Mets a sweep of the Marlins, whom they've now beaten 7 consecutive times. And a happy group of Mets after a 9-game home losing streak. They turn it around against Miami, taking all 3 games in this series and winning today 3-2 as you look at the game summary brought to you by the Jeep Celebration event. 3 hitless innings from the Mets bullpen behind Chris Young. David Wright, a 2-run homer in the first, and then the walk-off hit in the 9th by Tejada, giving the Mets the victory 3-2 and a sweep of the 3-game series.
Well, you know, it's September, you're not in it, and you don't want to finish in last, that we said in the open, and they've done their job here as far as taking care of the Marlins, who really came in here and just did not play well at all. Looked like they've had 1 foot on the bus.
You saw the anger on Reyes' face as he left the field. We'll come back and have an interview with Ruben Tejada. Mets win it 3-2. Back to Citi Field in a moment.